Lug is an ugly and incredibly skilled assassin. With a nose so sharp, he could probably smell the plot twist before it happens. He gets reincarnated after being betrayed by the very organization that raised him to be a killer. He finds himself in a new world with overpowered magic, leveling up skills, and a mission to perform one last assassination along with his new beautiful wives. Before this, Lug gets assigned a mission to take out top members of the mafia. He aims with his biggest sniper rifle and starts shooting them one after the other without mercy. He does this alongside his newly assigned partner and sidekick, a young girl who acts as a spotter and tells him the location of the members. Swiftly, he keeps shooting them one by one and makes sure not to miss a shot. This leaves the mafia in panic while those left alive hide behind their cars to save themselves from the bullets. This, however, doesn't stop Lug as his sidekick informs him about the positions of the other key members who are hiding behind their cars. He goes on to shoot them through the cars. After that, he gets up and informs her that the mission is now over since they have taken down the key figures they were ordered to isekai. Hearing this, she gets confused. This is because she expected that they would take out all the mafia members they found. In response, Lug lets her know that they only do what they are ordered to, and that they aren't heroes. Furthermore, he reveals that they can only take the lives of the people they have been instructed to and must leave immediately. Curiously, she asks him if he can think of a reason why the organization would ask them to kill only the leader, and he replies that since the organization is a top-secret organization, they aim to control the entire country. This, he claims, could give them some form of connection to the mafia, which would make them want the leaders, not the mafia, be changed entirely in their favor. This came as a shock to his sidekick, who had signed up for this because she thought she would make a positive impact on the world. Just as they are about to leave, he notices a drone tracking them and immediately orders her to get into the car. At that moment, he makes it his new mission to flee the drone safely, realizing that the drone had been sent after them. While they drive away, the drone continues to follow them. This causes Lug to recognize that if they remain in the car, they will be sent to meet their maker. While the girl has no idea what is going on, Lug completely understands, since it would be hard for them to escape their pursuers. He instructs her to get a gun ready and attach a wire to the trigger. Then, he sets up the car to continue in motion while they jump out. On jumping out, the car continues to be chased by military vehicles, and the wired gun from earlier starts to shoot at the military. This forces retaliation from them, leading them to blow up the vehicle with no idea that Lug and his sidekick are not in it. In reality, the two hide behind a rock, and when the coast is clear, the girl suggests that they return to base. However, Lug informs her that they can't do that now since the drone is still in the sky and can sense their heat signatures at night. Therefore, he states that they would have to wait there till the next day when the sun is up, which would make it hard for the drone's infrared cameras to differentiate their body temperatures. Shortly after, he notices that she is hurt and helps her to patch it up. Then, the two decide to get some rest since they would have to leave early in the morning. They lay on the ground, and suddenly, the girl starts asking questions like an annoying reporter. He stops her curiosity by revealing that this job is going to be his last job since he plans to retire after this. He states he plans to start a new career as an instructor for novice assassins like her. Hearing this, she states that she is not a novice and that she was the top student in her class. In reply, he states that her classmates were probably trash since he thinks she is a pro-trash assassin. He further taunts her with the fact that he was a better assassin than her when he was a virgin. In a brief moment, Lug pulls out her gun and points it at her dumb head. Then, he taunts her for being a terrible assassin for letting him take her gun easily. Furthermore, he scolds her for trusting him since he can easily pull the trigger to end her miserable life. Being a pathetic weakling, she stands still, unable to make a move. After a while, Lug sees that she has a lot to learn and lowers the gun. He hands the weapon back to her and opts to sleep. At this moment, she decides to return the favor and points the gun at him. When she does this, he is so confident that she cannot go through with it. While she tries to figure out why he thinks so, he reveals that he had handed the gun back to her without any bullets. He states that he is not as dumb as she is and brings out the bullets, dropping them to the ground like her IQ. This leaves her highly disappointed in herself. The following day, the two return to their base and manage to contact their organization. They are congratulated for completing the mission and ask Lug if his sidekick is still alive. When he states that she is, they inform him about a drawer beneath where he would find everything he needs to leave that country. Checking, he sees 2 fake passports and 2 tickets back to Japan. Later on, the two arrive at the airport and board the plane, just when Lug gets relaxed and thinks about his planned future as an instructor with no reason to bother about being an assassin. There is massive turbulence that leaves everyone on the plane panicking. One of the passengers checks his phone to find out that their plane has been hijacked. Immediately, the girls ask Lug what is going on since there are no hijackers in sight. Realizing what is going on, he tells her that this is no hijacking case, but an assassination attempt by his organization. They apparently want to take him out, as that is the only way to activate his retirement plan. Hearing this, the girl is completely distressed and prepares to say her last prayers. Meanwhile, Lug charges towards the cockpit, and a dumbhead air hostess tries to prevent him from going in. But he smacks her sexy ass out of the way. Getting into the cockpit, he finds that the pilots have gone to meet their maker. Immediately, he takes over the pilot role and tries to save what remains of the plane. At that moment, he notices a fighter jet beside the plane, and is about to shoot it down. At that moment, Lug realizes that his life has reached a dead end. He is frustrated about the betrayal the organization has just dished him. When he opens his eyes, he finds himself in a strange spirit realm, where a sexy goddess stands before him. She mocks him at first for being the finest assassin on Earth, and yet getting betrayed by his own organization. Just then, he asks her where he is and why he is there. In response, she tells him that she's going to give him 2 options. The first one is that he will be reborn on Earth as a baby with no memory of who he was before. Or he could be reincarnated into an alternate world of magic and sorcery, where he will retain all his memories and experiences on a quest to use his skill to assassinate someone. Hearing this, he is reminded that if something sounds too good to be true, it most likely isn't. This causes him to ask her who she wants him to assassinate. She tells him that she just wants him to isekai the hero that was born in this world. While he gets the chance to ponder this, she offers him some tea, like a Barbie in a playhouse. At this moment, Lug has trouble understanding or believing the concept of reincarnation. However, she reveals that it is more common than some might assume, and almost all of the important souls are given the option to get reincarnated. Still, they end up not remembering anything from their previous lives. At this point, he concludes that he has had enough of Earth, and would rather begin a new life in this new world as long as he can preserve his memories and skills. Apparently, he had always thought of himself as an emotionless tool of the organization, but when he was about to die, he felt miserable and frustrated. Furthermore, he felt like he was used and betrayed, and never really had a life of his own. However, she informs him that she doesn't care about what he does with his new life as long as he kills the hero once he turns 18. Just then, she touches his stupid head and transfers all of the information about the new world into it, from the language to the culture, so that he can maneuver his way around this world without any issues. After understanding the ways of this world, he tries to understand the ways of women.
Really?
He asks the goddess why she wants to murder such a hero, and she replies that the hero will defeat the demon, after which he will change since the power will get into his head, making him take over the world and destroy it. Hearing this, Lug considers this a worthy backstory. He asks the goddess whether he can kill the hero whenever he wants, but she refuses. She informs him that the hero is the only person who can defeat the demon lord, and urges him not to kill the hero until he has successfully done so. Immediately, he understands his assignment and agrees to it. This leads to the goddess showing him a bunch of cards with different abilities. Observing them, Lug picks a bunch of them from different categories, and is given the special bonus that enables him to use all 4 attributes of magic at will. When he is done with his selection, the goddess wishes him luck and sends him to this new world, where he is born as a baby to a noble guy. The family happens to be a long lineage of royal surgeons, but in the dark, they are a guild of highly well-trained assassins. This seemed to be the perfect environment for Lug to train himself to be an assassin without hiding it. Knowing this, he is extremely pleased. Many years passed, and Lug is now a young boy who has sunk himself in his training ever since he was able to walk. He goes inside a forest to try out his skills by hunting a rabbit out in the open. Getting there, he finds the tracks and runs through the tree with speed before hanging from a branch and shooting the rabbit straight through the eye to take it out in one shot. He brings the rabbit back to his house, where his mom welcomes him like a little boy and offers to prepare it. However, since she narrowly escaped an F in cooking, he insists on prepping the rabbit himself. In his quest to get stronger, he believes he needs perfect nutrition, and since there are no protein powders in this world, he needs to make do with what he has. He uses a bunch of spices and herbs alongside the meat to create an almost perfectly balanced diet, which he enjoyed with his family afterward. Just after eating, his stone-cold dad gets up and instructs him to meet him in the basement where they usually hold their training. Shortly after, Lug goes to the basement, where he meets his dad, who tells him to take off all his clothes. Lug quickly strips down, and his dad starts telling him to do some weird Jackie Chan poses while he goes over to check his body in order to see whether his growth is good. Also, he checks if Lug is perfectly healthy and more developed than the boys of his age. Upon close observation, his dad tells him that he believes that he is ready for the eye surgery. This happens to be a secret that no one outside of their family knows. They have a unique surgical technique that they use to make their eyes special, and it can only be performed by the father on the son. Usually, the surgery is done when the son is of a greater age. However, considering how strong Lug already is, his father decides that it's time to do it. The next day, after surgery, Lug gets some baby treatments from his mother since he is unable to see after having his eyes bandaged from surgery. She feeds him, and when it seems like things are getting out of hand, he runs to his father, who finally takes off the blindfold, and when he opens his eyes, he sees the beautiful scenery of the entire estate that his dad owns. He tries to focus his eyes, and surprisingly enough, he can see things that are very far away very clearly. Also, he gets the ability to see in the dark, which will be crucial for him as an assassin. Turning around to thank his dad, he notices that he can now see how much mana his father has. Just then, his father informs him that he has arranged for a personal tutor who will teach him magic starting tomorrow. This leaves Lug incredibly happy as he is dying to learn magic in this world. The next day, his mom makes him a princess dress and forces him to wear it while welcoming his new tutor. Later on, the tutor arrives in a carriage, and it turns out to be a young silver-haired girl. She introduces herself as Daya. After that, she walks up to her new student, Lug, who looks like the stupidest person in the world at the moment. Looking at him, she says that he might be too young to learn magic. In response, Lug tells her that she is barely older than him, which pisses her off. To show him how strong she is, she demonstrates an explosion magic to him, which leaves him thrilled. Then, she tells him that even though she looks young, she is one of the top 4 strongest mages in the entire kingdom, and she will train him day and night to make him at least the 5th strongest mage. The following day, Lug's training starts, and the two get to introduce themselves in the garden formally. There, Daya tells Lug not to be so formal as she is merely 3 years older than him, but he insists that she is still his teacher and deserves every bit of respect. In response, Daya hands him a pretty crystal ball, which he calls Far Stone. She reveals that the stone is used to gauge how much mana a person possesses naturally. The more mana you have, the more complex and destructive magic you can perform. Just then, she tells him to pour all of his mana into the stone. It turns out that Lug has massive and full balls as he continues to pour into the stone, leaving Daya stuck and begging for more. While he continues to pour more of his mana into it, the stones get unstable as they cannot contain so much mana. At this point, Daya gets horrified and shouts at him to throw the stone as far away as possible. So, Lug immediately increases his strength and throws the stone in the air, causing it to explode into a loud bang. Hearing this, Lug's parents rush outside and ask if they are all right. Daya is completely shaken up by what she just saw. She thinks that the parents must be angry due to this, and she wastes no time telling them that it was her fault for not knowing how much mana Lug had. His parents, however, are not mad even a little bit and rejoice in their son's capability instead. They thank Daya for making them realize how powerful their son is and leave them to continue their training. On the other hand, Lug is obsessed with these Far Stones. He thinks they can be an important weapon against the hero, thanks to their explosive properties. This causes him to ask Daya about the stones and where he can acquire some. Daya, however, tells him that these stones are not something that you can simply buy from a shop, and they are the prized jewels of her kingdom, which makes their trade highly controlled. That night, Daya ends up up sneaking into Lug's room and sleeps with him, claiming that he is her little brother now. Hopefully, she doesn't get stuck under the bed. The next day, they go beside a riverbank, and she hands him another far stone. This time, she tells him to pour in only a little bit of mana as she wants to check the attributes that he has. At first, she checks for the fire attribute and is happy to see that he has it. Just to be sure, she also ends up checking for water attributes, claiming that it is very rare for someone to have 2 attributes and that she is one of the very few people who possess them. To her greatest surprise, he possesses the 2 attributes, and this makes her feel very happy, as she can now teach him all the spells she knows. Just out of curiosity, Lug asks her to check if he has any more attributes, but she smiles and tells him that it is impossible for someone to have 3 attributes since no one in history has ever had that. Shockingly, it shuts her yapping mouth to realize that he even has the wind attribute. Out of curiosity, she checks once again and realizes that this powerful bastard has all 4 attributes, which is entirely unheard of. She composes herself once again and contemplates the fact that this is no guy to mess with. After that, she sits beside him and tries to take his magic virginity by waking up his innate magic. Suddenly, Lug can use magic spells now to do a wide variety of things. Daya informs him that the more spells he uses, the more spells he will be able to learn. He, however, finds it hard to think about these spells, so Daya takes the lead and shows him how to say one of the most basic earth spells, which involves creating copper. She does this effortlessly, and Lug tries to replicate it by saying what she said. Being a foreign body in this world, his pronunciation is off, so he ends up creating a block of copper with serious health issues. Later that night, he writes down everything he learned, and Daya enters his room once again to sleep beside him. The following day, after practicing a bunch of times, he's finally able to produce a piece of copper that is sick-free. Seeing this, Daya is thrilled that he is progressing really quickly. He asks her whether she could write some spells for him that she has learned as he wants to try them straight up. She writes down a spell for him, and he chants it. To his surprise, he's able to produce a block of iron immediately. At this moment, Lug realizes that the spells are just slightly different from each other since the spell he used to create copper is exactly similar to the one he used to make iron. Knowing this, he is excited and asks Daya to write down the spells that she knows on a piece of paper. She seems to be reluctant at the start, as it will take a lot of time, but she decides to give in and starts writing the spells. After reading the spells, he realizes that the thing that is changing for each metal is basically its atomic weight. He tries to explain it to Daya, but her dumb head makes it hard for her to understand. So, he moves on and tells her to write down a spell for him. Although she writes the same spell for iron, he changes the atomic weight to that of gold instead. Then, he tells Daya to recite it. She tries to do it, but suddenly falls to the ground with a severe headache. He realizes that not everyone can do this spell, so he grabs the paper and writes it down himself before reciting it. This produces a shiny gold bar, surprising Daya completely. He makes some changes to the spell using one of his skills, and suddenly, even Daya can produce gold. The 2 Elon Musk wannabes are extremely happy. Several days after that, Lug is able to produce complex materials out of these metals. They go down to the riverbank, and he produces a rifle through his magic and uses a spell to fire magical bullets out of it. Daya is also able to replicate it, which makes him happy, as he can now use this rifle against the hero. However, it doesn't have enough firepower for someone so strong, so he creates a giant cannon. Not the kind we know, but an actual giant cannon. Then, he tells Daya to shut her ears before he fires at the island in front of them, totally destroying it. Pleased by the firepower of this cannon, Lug turns towards it to see that the shaft of the cannon has exploded, which makes him decide to find a more powerful metal for this. He asks Daya if she wants to try it, but she refuses, telling him that she is perfectly fine with just using her rifle for now. That night, while they lie beside each other, Daya seems to be very emotional since this is her last day working as his magic tutor. She has to leave to go back to her kingdom the next day. Being a hard guy, Lug refuses to show his emotions. Instead, he uses his magical ability to create a dagger out of a very powerful metal, probably the Wakandan vibranium, which has never been seen in this world. He demonstrates how sharp it is and tells her that this is his parting gift to her. Daya is pleased with this, and in return, she takes off her pendant, which has a beautiful far stone in it, and gives it to Lug, making him promise that he will come to meet her if she really wants to meet him. The next day, she hops back into her carriage and leaves the mansion, thanking them for hosting her and promising that she will return someday. Just then, Lug's father looks at him and reveals that he can feel an immense amount of mana coming from inside him. He realizes that Lug is ready for the first step of becoming an assassin. That evening, he takes Lug to a large prison that contains a lot of death row inmates that are given to them to try out new drugs and practice assassination. Lug asks his father why he raised him to have human emotions, as it will just hinder his ability to kill other humans. However, his father reassures him by saying that he doesn't want Lug to become a tool for assassination and wants him to have a life outside of this where he can live like a normal person rather than a killing machine. Shortly after, they arrive at one of the cells, where his father shows him a young 19-year-old girl tied to a chair and gagged. He removes the gag, and she starts begging for her life, telling them to spare her. His father informs him that she infiltrated the house of an elderly couple, and when they returned, she ended up killing them and burning their house down. She cries to him that she only wanted to find some food, and the death of the couple was an honest mistake, which is the reason she burned the house down because she was so scared. She begs him to spare her life, but without a second of hesitation, Lug slices one of her hands off. This takes her by surprise, and she starts screaming and cursing at them, shouting at Lug's father for assuring her that if she pleads to Lug, her life he might spare her. Lug, however, knows how people like her are and throws his knife into her throat, shutting her vicious tongue once and for all. A couple of years have passed, and now Lug is 10 years old. One day, he and his family walk through the market, where everyone seems to be busy selling their produce as winter is coming soon. While the men talk, his mother gets friendly with some female sellers. On the other hand, Lug tries to find any person who has some mana in them, but finds that this is harder than finding a needle in a haystack. Since it's just 8 years until he assassinates the hero, he feels like he needs an assistant to help him. He tries as much as he can to find a commoner who has some kind of mana mana inside of them that he could take advantage of to be his servant. The next day, he heads into the forest for his occasional hunt. Looking around, he suddenly hears some howling and takes his ears close to the ground to hear a pack of wolves pursuing prey. He decides to follow the sound and possibly steal a kill from the wolves. When he finally spots them, he realizes that they are trying to attack a helpless and dirty-looking little girl. One of the wolves tries to attack her, but he quickly shoots an arrow through its head. Then, he jumps in front of the girl to protect her. To do that, he counts the wolves and decides that he will make harvesting their lives one of his training exercises. Before doing this, he hands over his equipment to the girl and takes out his knife. Just then, one of the wolves attacks him, but he quickly stabs it in the neck. Another one tries going after the girl, but he kicks it away as two other wolves jump at him simultaneously and grab his arms in their jaws. Thankfully, he's wearing metal gauntlets and simply twists his body to smack them into the ground before punching the last wolf straight in the head, isekaiing all of them. After taking them out, he returns to the girl and asks her what she's doing alone in the forest. At this moment, she gets scared and states that she is just lost and means no harm. Furthermore, she states that her family is very poor and that they didn't have enough food for everybody, so they ended up kicking her out of the house and leaving her for dead. She claims she found a kind stranger who told her that the Tuatha region, which is the region where Lug's family presides, is very rich, so she ended up wandering through the forests to reach it. Out of pity, Lug gives her his jacket and starts cooking some porridge for her. When he is done, he gives her a bowl and tells her to eat it slowly because if she eats it too fast, she might end up puking. She introduces herself as Tart and thankfully eats the hot meal he has made. Then, he reveals his identity as the son of the Lord of the Tuatha region. Hearing this, she immediately lights up and tells him that this is incredible, as a god had said to her that she would have a fateful encounter. Lug realizes that the goddess might be trying to help him. He had noticed from the very beginning after meeting her that she was the perfect match for his servant role. He offers to take her back to his crib, not for anything bad, but so she will have a place to live and never have to search for food. However, he states that the only thing that she has to do is follow his orders at all times, some of which may include killing other people. After telling her all this, he lets her make the final decision, asking whether she wants to come with him or not. Seizing the chance of a lifetime, she happily agrees, claiming that she was never wanted by anyone else and that he is the only one who told her that he needs her. 2 years passed, and Lug was woken up by Tart, who has now grown up to be really beautiful with appealing melons. Due to how hardworking she is, his parents like her. However, on the first night he brought her home, his father told him that he could only keep her on 2 conditions. He must train her himself, and he must make sure that if she ever betrays them, he will send her to meet Hades himself. After remembering this, he tells her to meet him down in the basement for a routine checkup, the same checkup his father conducted on him when he was being trained. After ordering her to give him a strip tease, he checks her body to make sure that she has improved physically. After revealing that he is pleased with her progress, he turns around to leave. At that moment, she tries to attack him with a knife, but he is able to subdue her easily. It turns out that she is really good at handling hard and sharp tools.
Wait a minute!
Well, I meant knives. Also, one weapon she's incredibly good at is a spear. But the problem is that a spear is not very easy to hide and is too bulky for an assassination. This causes him to conclude that he will give her a different hard tool to hold.
You naughty.
That night, he heads to the basement to find her practicing her knife skills on the dummy. However, she is unable to handle it properly and gets embarrassed to see him. She apologizes for training without his permission, but he simply produces a spear that can be folded into a small size and can be concealed. Happily, she plays around with it and uses it on the dummy, easily hitting her target every time. She even ends up destroying it completely and thanks him for this new tool. Then, the two head to bed for the night. The following day, Lug goes to the market and is loved by the people, as they all want to give him so many gifts that by the time he is returning to his place, his entire carriage is filled with fruits and veggies from the farms of local people. He returns to his place and checks his stash of far stones, and he ends up figuring out how to produce himself, even though Dyer refuses to tell him how to. Filling them with mana, he puts them in a bag to use as a hand grenade against the hero. Suddenly, Tart informs him that he's being called by his father, who has asked that he come down to the training room. When he gets there, his father asks him about Tart's abilities, and he replies, stating that he has trained her to an extent where she is just as strong as the extended members of the Tuatha family. Then, he asks Lug if they can trust her since he suspects that Tart might be sent by a spy organization to steal their family's secrets. Lug, however, replies that he has been looking over her for the past years and observing her body movements, which has made him sure that she's not a spy. He assures his father that if she were a spy, he would have killed her. Just then, his father replies that even he thinks that she is not a spy, and it must be God's work that it all turned out the way it did. He then reveals that Lug is strong and old enough to take his final exams to become an assassin. He asks Lug if he is up for it, and he replies that he is ready. Therefore, his dad tells him to come outside as his first test would be to fight him in one-on-one combat.
It's about to go down.
Lug suits up and walks outside. Then, the two enter the forest to begin. At this point, Lug believes he should have the upper hand because not only does he know about assassinations from his current life, but he also has the skills and experience from his previous life. He climbs on a tree when suddenly his dad shoots some arrows towards him. Fortunately, he dodges them and jumps off the tree to find his dad, who again shoots a crossbow bolt at him. Again, he dodges this and throws a knife at him, which his father is able to block. In retaliation, he tries to slice Lug with his knife, but he dodges and tries to kick him, but his father responds fast. He grabs Lug's leg before breaking one of the bones. Lug quickly kicks him away and jumps into some bushes, where he swiftly heals his bones with the help of his incredible recovery magic. He runs down the hill where his dad has set up a trap for him and successfully dodges the trap, but is immediately attacked by his father, who pushes him to fight harder. While Lug tries to block his attacks, he is able to grab one of his father's hands and kick him in the ribs. house, forcing him to retreat into the forest. Shortly after, he charges back out to meet Lug, who has already predicted his father's movement. Due to this, he is able to dodge his father's attack, even though he ends up getting stabbed in the shoulder. All hope is not lost, as Lug is also able to put his blade on his father's throat, ending the battle with victory. The two return from the forest to find Tart preparing them some tea. Later on, his dad treats his wound while telling him that he has taught him everything he could have, and now it's time for him to experience assassinations firsthand. He takes Lug to Isekai, a piece of expensive shit, who uses his position to abuse girls. After a successful mission, the two jump out the window. That night, they go around offering poisons in the form of palliatives to several other rich bastards. While they burn one of them, they make the others seem like accidents, so that it won't be traced back to the Tuatha De family. The next day, Lug's father takes him to treat a rich noble who is sick. On their way back, his father tells him about the plan to send him away to a different town to live under a false identity as the bastard son of a very famous merchant. Lug is instructed to stay 2 years with them and make himself known as a very good merchant, which will help their cause in future assassinations. This is because nobles invite traitors to their houses occasionally, and often, they don't even get checked by the security. Hearing this, Lug agrees. In his honor, his father sets up a huge banquet with all of his extended family members in attendance. There, his father boasts that he is the youngest member in the history of their family to pass the final test. Then, he reveals that Lug will become the new head of the family after his death, which seems to annoy some of the members of the family. One of them throws his wine glass at Lug, who catches it swiftly. The ugly idiot refuses to acknowledge someone younger than him to be the head of the family and wants to challenge Lug to a fight. Knowing how powerful his son is, Lug's father agrees. However, before the fool could even blink, Lug appears behind him with a knife to his throat, ending the fight in an instant. At this point, the foolish idiot almost pees his pants. Before leaving to start his new life, Lug calls his foolish cousin and acknowledges his strength. He offers to make the dumbhead his subordinate, promising to make sure that he is treated extremely well. As much as the dummy seems reluctant at first, he ends up agreeing to Lug's terms. Just then, Lug hands him a beautiful titanium sword as a gift and leaves. The next day, Lug packs up his gear and, together with Tart, heads into the carriage on his way to the new city, where he will begin his life as the son of a merchant and be called Ilig. Later on, Lug arrives in the new town and settles into his new home. This town happens to be one of the most prosperous regions of this kingdom because of its trade. In order to take up his new identity as Ilig, he immediately conceals his identity by changing his hair from silver to black. He even puts on a pair of glasses, which helps him to assume a completely different identity. One day, he gets tipped off about an orphanage in this area that pimps out little girls to wealthy nobles and learns that they have a commoner girl who can use magic as well. This makes him go to visit the orphanage. When he gets there, he meets a beautiful blue-haired girl crying with a sickle in her hand as she is just about to disfigure her face. This is because she thought that if she had a hideous face, people wouldn't buy and abuse her. Seeing her in this state, Lug grabs her hand and asks her to stop. Very kindly, he tells her that she should smile more as she looks beautiful with a smile. Shortly after, he meets the owner of the orphanage, an ugly fatty who shows him some girls. Taking a close look at them, he realizes that the blue-haired girl is the only one with mana and tells the owner that he's going to buy her. The owner informs him that her name is Maha, and she is a special girl, so he's going to charge triple the normal price. But money is no problem for Lug as Jeff Bezos has nothing on him. After giving him the money, the owner informs him that he needs to get her ready and clean, so Lug should come back in 3 days. This was all so he could get the chance to work out with her. At this moment, Maha looks scared, but is unable to say a word since that would mean harm to her and the other girls. Just before Lug leaves, he tells the massive pound of flesh not to touch Maha since she is now a member of his family. The fatty, however, has different plans, as he wants to pimp her out a couple of times to make some extra cash. That night, he has her washed and takes her in a carriage on the way to a nobleman's mansion. On the way, Maha is reminded of how nice Lug was to her when they first met, and is determined to make sure she offers herself to him as a virgin. Seizing the chance, she escapes from the carriage and runs inside the forest. One of the guards under the fatty, however, has mana as well. He catches up to her and grabs her from behind, just as he is about to explore some plot development with her. Lug arrives and slams him to the ground. The fatty arrives at the scene and is shocked to see Lug there. He tells him that he was supposed to take her 3 days later and wonders why he is here. But Lug tells him that he realized that the bastard is the fattest and the most ugly pile of shit ever to walk the earth. Angrily, the fatty orders his underling to attack Lug, and the delusional psycho runs up to him, trying to punch him. However, Lug dodges his attack swiftly and breaks the bastard's arm in half. Then, the fatty tries to attack him from behind, but Lug dodges once again, placing a knife on his throat. He then asks Maha about what's happening, and she tells him that she and the other girls were orphans who used to stay together in the slums. Apparently, they used to give tours to tourists in the city and got a small amount of money for the tours and some money from the restaurant that paid them to bring some tourists over. As much as this didn't earn them a lot, they were happy and satisfied with their lives. Unfortunately, one day, the fatty's goons attacked them out of the blue. Being the only one with mana, Maha had tried to stop them, but they ended up overpowering them and brought them back to this orphanage, where they were thrown into a room and given some vegetables to feed themselves for the entire week. As the girls grew older, the fatty started pimping the girls out